What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Surely, you aren't actually planning to take on that giant bare-handed, are you?
She asked, hoping for him to deny it. She had known Adalman for ages, yet she'd never once seen him training physically. And as a skeleton, physical conditioning seemed pointless. It didn't matter if he was once a sacred fist master or not. Fenn was far too strong to be confronted on such flimsy reasoning. In short, Venti wasn't thrilled about the idea. But Adalman was unwavering.
That's a silly question. As a fist fighter, of course, I'll rely on my bare hands. Any doubts remaining?
That's not what I meant at all.
Venti thought but only managed a quiet, no, none. Adalman's conviction was simply overpowering.
I see. Now I understand why he was deceived by his old allies. Adalman-sama is sharp, but at times, unexpectedly.
She cut off that train of thought, redirecting her gaze to the ferocious Fenn. Now that things had come to this, she resolved to place her trust in the Lord she loved and respected. Whether that respect was fully intact was up for debate, but Venti decided to follow Adalman's lead.
All right then. Here's the plan. Since magic doesn't seem effective, we'll go with a physical attack. That's our only option.
Venti felt an urge to leave right there, but she braced herself and waited for the rest of his explanation.
And of course, your breath attack won't work either. You see, magic nullification disrupts the spiritrons within the magicules themselves.
Strangely logical, though admitting that felt unkind, Venti was taken aback by Adalman's solid reasoning. However, his next statement threw her off entirely.
In other words, we lack a means of attack. So, here's my proposal. Let's combine forces.
Wait, what?
Adalman's plan was far beyond Venti's expectations and, frankly, didn't make much sense. Nevertheless, Adalman interpreted her startled response as agreement.
I knew you'd agree.
Hold on, that's not.
Her protest came too late. Adalman, utterly disregarding her objection, activated his technique without hesitation.
Now's the time to unleash the secret technique I crafted just for scenarios like this.
Venti felt her strength begin to wane. The technique Adalman employed was called Assimilation by possession. She wondered how long he had been working on this skill, but it seemed to be succeeding flawlessly. As a spirit, Adalman was essentially a sentient entity inhabiting his skeletal frame. But this possession didn't have to be limited to his bones. In this case, he was merging with Venti as though her body were his own. This wasn't just any ordinary technique, it was groundbreaking because it maintained both consciousnesses separately. Unlike conventional possession, which overwrites the host, this technique allowed both their minds to coexist. Having solved that problem, Adalman proudly considered it a true secret technique.
Don't worry, you're still fully conscious, even with me in control, right?
Yes.
Well, I am a bit nervous about separating us later.
Adalman muttered softly. But Venti heard him clearly. After all, they were now one and the same.
Hold on. Are you really certain about this?
In a calm voice, Adalman reassured her.
Even in the worst-case scenario, we can just ask our god Rimuru-sama to arrange a new body for us.
Venti found his statement bold, but maybe such confidence could be forgiven, given the circumstances. After all, Rimuru also enjoyed novel experiments, and he would likely be delighted to witness the outcome of this secret technique. The question remained about who would inhabit the new body if it came to that, or rather, Venti had just become fully aware of her current form. When Adalman took over, her body had undergone a remarkable change. The Gehenna dragon's immense magicule reserves and powerful physique were now directed by Adalman's unwavering willpower.
This form feels almost familiar.
In front of her stood a young man with dark hair, dressed in a somber black priest's robe, the very image of Adalman from his days of renown. Though there were minor differences, like his hair color, this figure was nearly identical to the young Adalman. Seeing him, Venti thought.
Surprisingly handsome. Adalman-sama truly is an impressive figure.
It seemed Venti had a tendency to adapt her opinions rather easily.
I'll leave everything to you, Adalman-sama. I'm rooting for you.
Venti set aside her prior misgivings and placed her full trust in Adalman. Now, with an empowered body and boundless magicule reserves, the genuine Gehenna Lord had finally descended.
Haha, this excitement is a rare feeling. In this form, I might be able to match up to Zeej and Dono, or perhaps even contend with Miss Ultima.
Adalman mused. He thought of his comrades, who couldn't even spar with him when he was merely a skeleton. Now, while he might not secure victory, at least he could engage in battle. Yes, now. With the exceptions of Benimaru, Diablo, and Zijin, Adalman felt sure he wouldn't lose against the other Guardian Lords. Grinning with fierce confidence, he pushed off the ground. His body felt as light as air, almost unrestrained by gravity. Even when he had been a skeleton, he had never felt so untethered. Nevertheless, the giant Fenn remained a daunting adversary, and underestimating him was reckless. Ultima herself was barely holding her own. Adalman alone wouldn't have stood a chance against him. But alongside Ultima? Thankfully, while Fenn's raw power was undeniable, his technique didn't seem as refined as Glassword's, who was currently clashing with Alberto. His inability to overpower Ultima suggested he struggled to fully harness true dragon-level energy. Given this, victory wasn't out of reach, Adalman thought with newfound resolve.
We're not just going for a mere delay. Let's secure a resounding and definitive victory.
With you, Adalman-sama, it's possible.
Venti's response was equally optimistic, though her reasoning was unclear. It was the exchange of two aligned minds, master and servant.
Exactly, that's the spirit. We are among Rimuru-sama's strongest guardians, the 12 Chaos Guardian Lords.
This truth was his source of strength. In the face of dire odds, both Adalman and Venti charged forward, spirits high and hearts light. Ultima had a sinking feeling. She had guessed right. Fenn was immune to magic. The entire strategy she and Ruminez had crafted hinged on destroying De Gruel with their most potent spell, disintegration. Ultima wanted desperately to warn her that this wouldn't work, but Fenn wasn't giving her the chance. As the shining light of disintegration lit up in the distance, she knew their plan had failed.
The Insectars had a few who could cancel out magic, but this is on another level.
You figured it out. Our magic nullification forms a barrier against magic itself. It interferes with the spiritrons, so no spell, no matter how powerful, can break through.
Ultima, exasperated, replied.
How thoughtful of you.
Magic was the demon race's greatest weapon, making giants like these a natural counter. Though only the elite seemed to have this power, the matchup was so bad it was almost absurd.
Damn it. Guy must have known about this. Couldn't he have given us a heads up?
She grumbled to herself, but, of course, Guy wasn't around to hear it. In that moment, Ultima fully understood the importance of the Rikoko, a concept Rimuru had always emphasized. But it was too late to change tactics. Now, she needed to figure out another solution, and quickly. Ultima's mind turned to the nihilistic parade spell that Gadra had used.
The reason the old man used it must have been because it was effective. But why was it?
The answer dawned on her, it had worked. She realized the essence of magic itself was at play here. Magic alters the world by manipulating magicules, and spiritrons are a part of that. So it made sense that magic nullification would shut down all forms of magic. But dark magic, especially void spells, brought forth a void, an energy-erasing force that even magic nullification couldn't counter. Ultima now felt certain of this. Without hesitation, she focused her attacks exclusively on void magic.
Perish. Dark magic. Nihilistic banish.
A dark aura of void engulfed Fenn.
How irritating. You demons sure know how to be a nuisance.
Though Fenn's aura managed to suppress the void somewhat, it still didn't harm him. Nihilistic Banish, the most potent of dark spells and the counterpart to disintegration, barely registered as more than a minor annoyance to Fenn. However, it wasn't entirely ineffective. Like dust that could build into a mountain or water that could erode stone, persistence might eventually wear him down. Time was on her side. Ultima concentrated fully, methodically repeating her attacks with flawless precision, not allowing a single slip. If any of Fenn's attacks landed, she'd lose in an instant, that's how vast the disparity in power was. But in terms of speed, which was critical in combat, they weren't that different. And that set the stage for their battle. There was another factor, her experience. Ultima had sparred against Zijin, a being of staggering strength, which had prepared her for such a fight. Despite Fenn having an existence value more than 20 times hers, this wasn't as dire as it sounded. If Zijin's attacks were like a spear, swift and deadly, meant to pierce and kill instantly, Fenn's were more akin to a massive hammer, with devastating power that could shatter anything in its path. The difference was subtle. One was a point of contact, the other a widespread force. The threat level remained unchanged despite the energy's sheer volume. Fenn's attacks had more raw power than Zijin's, but the end result, death, was still the same. This realization brought her some comfort. She was concerned for Ruminez and the others but had already accepted there was nothing she could do for them here. Letting go of those worries, Ultima even began humming as she playfully engaged with Fenn. Then, Adalman returned.
Miss Ultima, my apologies for the delay.
Who? Wait, Bone.
Haha. Yes, it's Adalman.
All right then. You know your job, right?
Naturally.
With rapid communication through thought acceleration, they instantly coordinated their roles. Adalman would lead the charge against Fenn, while Ultima would strike with nihilistic banish to drain his strength. Having come this far, it was now simply a matter of executing their plan.
A brute who relies solely on raw power doesn't stand a chance against us, right?
It might have been a bit early to declare victory, but Ultima said it with a wicked grin. The ground shook as Demon Lord de Gruel's overwhelming presence took hold of the battlefield. Demon Lord Rumina's Valentine could hardly believe what she was seeing. Her initial plan, to kill de Gruel with her most powerful technique right from the start, had failed, sealing her fate. The devastating spell, Disintegration, should have reduced de Gruel to nothing, just as it would any opponent, even forcing true dragons to undergo rebirth. But here, it had failed. De Gruel's ability, Magic Nullification, had single-handedly crushed any chance of success, and Rumina's could now see the grim consequences unfolding. Meanwhile, the duel between Alberto and Glassword was ongoing. At a glance, they seemed evenly matched, but with the ultimate skill, lustful King Asmodeus, Rumina's saw the truth. Glassword's aura shone brightly, while Alberto's was fading, as if it could vanish at any moment.
A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Havox, Speed Saber, Curtis Loban, Judah Herrera, Just a Guy, Miss L.W. Hernandez, Jason Martin, Zach Rosen, Jerry Sladek, Ray Perez, Jay, Donald Williams, Day of Light, John M, Godman Gaming, Markithian Tidwell, Adrian, Kumo, T. Bush, JV, Thomas, Christ, Joshua Cousins, Jose Hernandez, Khalid, Christian Deshazer, Divine C. Harris, Montyboy98, Ruben, Yuki Iki, Gray, Isaac, Koala King 93, Quilly Buckner, Alver, Darius King, Normal Defate, Vicente Baharias, Joshua Andrade, L, Gary Miles, Dragon Spawn 666, J. Rule, Nate, Leiron Sangkap, Lucas Guet, Jason Martin, Christopher Mash, Charles Bailey, Sky T, Diego Ginoza, Andre Hamilton, Martin Ramos, Guy Ensley, Simon Rode, Emperor WSA, Miko Espinosa, Gobi Lin, Pratik Bandari, Faiz Mansour, Jackson Early, Smexy, Carl Stephen Bernadal, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Vasto Lord, Marl Barsha, Ralph Ignacio, Efrain Hernandez, William Locke, Kamal Luke, Jahid Hassan Lipu, Spencer Candila, Ian Sikibiol, Thanacorn Lee Sawat, KACP9R, The Harv, Drayden Yamauchi, Alex Buthanu, Michael Brinkley, Nathan Alexander, Mario Kanoy, Karam Faraj. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.